Welcome my brothers, and maybe a few sisters, to this online battle, 2v2. I'm playing as Clan Angren, so technically not the dwarves, but also technically the dwarves. Anyway, my ally is playing as the actual dwarves, and we're against 2 units of chaos. 2 units of chaos? That would be a quick battle. 2 armies of chaos. And this is on one of the newer maps, the Lost Vaults of King Lun. Pretty awesome looking map. It's got these 4 little bits in the middle as well, which kind of give it a strategic element to it, so it's pretty cool. Now, we've kind of holed up in a defensive position, and the Chaos are just kind of stood around all over the place, but important thing to note, they only have 1 hell cannon, and we have many a cannon. My allies bought 3 units of cannons, and I've got 1 unit, so we out-cannon them by 3. We've got the ranged advantage, means we can just sit here in our little defensive formation and wait for them to come to us. Looking at it now, we're probably a little bit too much of a mishmash of units. We're a bit too compact, and you can't really see what's going on, but the front line is held by me. I pretty much got longbeards all across the front, mostly normal ones with a couple of great weapons on the edges. And then I've got some miners just behind blasting charges, because I figured if they got some marauders with low armour, these guys are going to do a nice bit of damage to them. And with a similar idea on the far left, I've got the Regiment of Renown unit, the Norgrimland's Ironbreakers, who look pretty freaking rad. They've got red and gold armour, looking pretty sweet. They've got blasting charges as well, of course, so they're going to be good for the same purpose. And then behind the front line, my ally is backing me with dwarf warriors with great weapons. So if they bring in lots of armor-piercing units instead of non-armor-piercing units, he can kind of take the reins at the front, and I'll pull my longbeards back. And then we have our skirmisher line. He's got some torpedo boys, some thunderers. I've got some thunderers. And we've got our artillery sat behind that. And then at the back, we've got our most important units. Most of our hammerers. We've got my hammerers. He's got a bunch of units of hammerers. I've got my slayers back here as well. I've got some Peak Gate Guard, who have just been smashed by the hell cannon. They've lost a lot of health from that. They've only lost 4 men. So that's not too bad, but they did lose nearly a quarter of their health, which is not so good. That damn hell cannon. And I've also got some gyrocopters. I thought would be good against the chaos because they don't have any ranged units, but then they do have a lot of flying units. So it's a risky bring. Protecting our rear flanks, my allies put his longbeards. So if they try to flank us, which they inevitably will, then we're covered a little bit. So that's pretty much our army. Now for the Chaos army, first thing to note is the hell cannon has been destroyed. My ally must have aimed all his cannons at this and blasted it down because I didn't. And it's no more. So they're going to be forced to come to us now. They can't just sit there and let that hell cannon do some damage before they come up to us. They've got 4 units of Chaos Marauders at the front with great weapons. They're going to be pretty dangerous to us because they have armor piercing. They've also brought some aspiring champions along. Now, while these are a very dangerous, strong unit, they're not actually armor piercing. So how much use they're going to be against dwarves? Maybe not so much. More normal Marauders back there. More aspiring champions. A couple of feral manticores. They've gone very heavy on the flying units. There's the Chaos Lord General, which is a flying unit, and then over here they got they got 1 Exalted Hero and 2 more Feral Manticores. So they've gone heavy on the air superiority in this one. More aspiring champions, some Chaos Lancers over here. Chosen, Kolek, good old Kolek. He's going to get shot in the face, obviously. More Chosen. And over on the far side, we got 2 more Exalted Heroes on flying units, so that's like 7 flying units or something. A couple more Chosen and a Giant. Now, I forgot about this unit as well. This is one of my units. It's Ulthar's Raiders. They have stalk, so I put them over there to kind of be invisible. I thought maybe I could sneak up behind them and blast down a hell cannon if they left it alone. But they were spotted straight away because they put all those units nearby. I put them up here, but they weren't hidden enough. So I'm trying to run them away. Thinking about it now, though, I probably should have just run over and started attacking those Chosen because they have armor-piercing missiles. So I could have done a fair amount of damage to these Chosen before they probably even realised that they were there. But instead I tried to run them away and hope they wouldn't notice and try to get them back to the rest of my army. But we'll see what happens with that. So let's get this crazy thing underway. They've just lost their hell cannon. They're going to be forced to move up now. Of course, we are playing a very defensive game, which can be somewhat frowned upon in the Total War world, of course. But in this case, I think it's necessary. With the dwarves, I think it's a bit more acceptable to kind of just sit back and wait in a kind of almost box. We've almost made like a box because we're using the environment. But to me, that's just kind of smart tactical awareness. It's not like we're using the edge of the map, which is kind of cheap. We're using, part of the map. So it's all good. Thorgrim's over here, by the way. This is my ally's lord. And I've brought just a regular cheapy lord, so no one fancy for me. But he'll do the job. He'll lead the army proficiently in Clan Angren. I also have a Thane over on the far side as well, so he can get stuck into some melee combat if need be. They're moving up now. Their Chaos Marauders with great weapons are coming up. They're of course quite dangerous to us because of the armor piercing, so going to have to be wary that they could chop through our front line and start to push inward, so going to have to be careful of that. My Ulthar's Raiders are still coming down, but there's some Manticores heading their way, so I was a little bit worried about them at this point. But let's have a watch of these incoming Marauders. Hopefully my miners should be able to blast the crap out of them. I don't really use miners too often. because they don't exactly do a ton of damage. They're more good for disrupting charges and things like that. They will do a fair amount of damage to unarmoured units though, but you don't get too many unarmoured unit charges very often. Not lightly armoured like these Marauders are, like 15. So I thought it would be a good bet to try them out. Just about to start popping off with the old satchels. There we go. Are they satchels? I guess they are. They're not really grenades. They look like little handbags. You're throwing handbags at them. So they're going to get their charges in on my Longbeards. And looking at it now, the Longbeards have charge defense against large. So these guys obviously don't count as large. So I probably should have charged them back instead of just taking their charges. But oh well, it won't do too much damage, hopefully. The battle is well and truly underway now though. The front lines are engaged. My Authars Radives have just been destroyed by those two Manticores, which is a bit of a shame. I wanted to try and see what they could do. They're pushing quite heavy on the left hand side of our line. You can see these Great Weapon Marauders are actually doing pretty good against my Longbeards. We're both down to about half health, so it's fairly even in their fight. These two units in the centre haven't really been touched, and another even fight on the other far side. So a fairly even matchup across the front line. They're coming in heavy with those Marauders on the left as well, so they're really trying to overrun our left by the looks of it. They'll probably have the Chosen and stuff coming in soon, and they're going to be a lot harder to deal with. They're bringing the other stuff around the flanks. They've got a Giant over here who's been absolutely smashed by cannons. He's just getting up. He's not going to last too long. He really should have flanked round with him and got him behind those walls where the cannons wouldn't be able to shoot him. His Chaos Lord's taking a fair bit of damage, and he's going on seemingly a suicide run. He's bringing him right down into the fray. Oh no, he's not. Oh yes, he is. He's going after the Torpedo unit, which is the anti-large unit. So a terrible idea there to bring your general in alone like that into the middle of two enemy armies. Just absolute suicide run. Madness. Kolek's coming in on the left, so he's going to not quite suicide run it, but he's still very exposed with all the skirmishers and all the cannons around. If you're going to bring in big things like this, you have to get rid of the cannons and the skirmishers, or you're just going to get destroyed. I've probably started aiming my skirmishers at Kolek at this point. Oh, there you go, you can see something. There, I've aimed my cannon at Kolek, so I'm trying to blast him down. I've got some Thunderers here. Going to start getting them on him as well. The flying units are coming in though. All these Manticores and Exalted Heroes. They're going to try and cause some trouble. We just killed the enemy Lord as well, the one that suicide runned it. They've attacked with the flying units again, so they've kind of launched their flying attack, but it hasn't really come off too well. The Chosen have just arrived at the flank, and my allies' Hammerers have disappeared from there, so I've brought my Longbeards with great weapons over, who are eventually going to get destroyed by Chosen, but they will put up a fair fight, and they do have armor piercing, so it's all good. I'm running my Slayers after those flying units as well, trying to get them. My ally's got the left side covered though. He's got some Chaos Marauders coming in though with great weapons, and also 2 units of Chaos Knights with lances, so they're going to charge the crap out of him. Although, are they Longbeards? They are Longbeards, but they have great weapons, so they're not the ones that can take a charge bonus in the face, so they've been absolutely run through, which is not good because now we're exposed in the rear, and you can see all those coming along. Back on the other flank, however, I've sent my Peak Gate Guard over to deal with the Chosen. They have armor sundering, so they're going to reduce the armor of the Chosen, which is going to help the Longbeards to deal with them and the Hammerers to deal with them. So hopefully they'll be able to even the odds on that side. But 2 units of Chosen is still a lot to deal with. We'll see how it goes. Starting to get messy in the centre now. The front line is all but dissolved. It's just kind of a mess of units all over the place. We're still holding back most of the units. That left side is struggling. Just kind of being a bit overwhelmed with numbers, but we do have the Iron Breakers over there, so they should hold pretty well. They're doing okay. They got 30 odd kills, not great. Bringing in the Lord though, he's going to help them out. There's quite a big gap next to that. There are some units in there, some of my allies' units, but whether he can hold them that long is another question. Got my Longbeards around here to have a flank on these aspiring champions. They shouldn't last too long. Like I say, they don't have armor piercing, so they're not going to be doing too much damage. We've broken everything that they have on the right side, so it's mainly the left side now. They've got a lot of units over there. Some of them Chosen, some of them Marauders, 2 Manticores in there. If they are going to break us completely anywhere, it's going to be on the left. I think they still have a general somewhere. Where is... Oh, there you go. Kolek's over here. So he's got a tiny bit of health, but he is all but dead. This rear left flank has been completely overrun. The Chaos Knights have come round. He's got about 5 units fighting like 1 or 2 units there. You really should have flanked round with some of those. There's no need. These Chaos Knights though are getting swarmed. There's Slayers. He's charged them in. He would have been better off charging them over here into the back of these 2 units, helping out these Chosen, because they would have done some crazy damage to the back of these Hammerers and stuff. But he is not, and those Chosen are going to suffer for it. Cannons are still alive. Everything on the right has been all but defeated, so we're going to start moving over to help the left-hand side with all the, well, everything that they have on the left-hand side, which is quite a lot. He's bringing Kolek back in though, one of the enemy guys, which is just a foolish move. I've still got lots of Slayers left. They've been killing all the Manticores. And Kolek is just asking for death because the Dragonback Slayers are nearby. And they don't fuck about. But I think I've actually started firing my skirmishers on him yet. So Kolek is not going to last very long with a couple of Thunderer units blasting him down. Really should have tried to keep Kolek alive as long as possible. Could have kept him hidden behind that wall there, just out of the range, out of the view of the skirmishers. Because you can see they've still got quite a few units here on this left side. Pretty much the whole left is looking pretty bad for us because they have so many units and so many numbers. But these units on the rear flank, they could have moved round, come around the back of my units that were there and flanked them, or my allies' units, and just flanked the crap out of us and got rid of us quickly, and then that whole left rear flank would have been open and exposed and they could have just come around and helped the left side. But instead, they've got both their generals killed and there are white flags popping up all over the gap. And you can see they've still got a lot of numbers left. They've still got a lot of men left in the units that are running away. But because they've got both of their generals killed, they have no morale left and they're just gone. So the moral of this story is to protect your generals at all costs. You can't go suiciding your generals into the middle of enemy armies and thinking that somehow that's going to be worthwhile, like they're going to get tons of kills and destroy everything. It's just absolutely mind-boggling that people would do that. And in this game, this Total War game especially, generals seem very important to keep alive. In some of the older Total Wars, you can still kind of keep going even without a general for the most part. It does affect the morale, but it's not as big as it is in this one, I think. So protect your important people. Now for the numbers, you can see these guys didn't really bring, I mean, one of them brought 800, which is a good amount. The other guy brought 500 units, 500 men to a battle, and we had over 2,000. It's simply not enough. You have to try and even out numbers with kind of the good units that you want. This army though, this army did have a good amount of people, 800, that's more than enough. They got a lot of chosen. Aspiring champions, marauders didn't really do anything. Most of their chosen didn't do a lot. Their lancers, their horsemen, did a hell of a lot. You can see how powerful they were. If they'd done a bit more with them, they could have done a lot more damage. The other guy, you can see he brought a lot of heroes. Those two exalted heroes were taking a lot of his money. And the Mandicores didn't really do anything. Their chosen didn't even really do anything. So a lot of money gone to waste there. My allies' units didn't really do a great deal. None of them performing terribly well. He was kind of almost more supporting me, if anything. My boys, my Norgrimland's Ironbreakers did pretty well. Some of my Slayers did okay. Some of my Hammers, a little bit of everything did okay. Some things not so much. But there we go. That was a fun battle. Felt a bit like a siege, to be honest, because it was very defensive on our part and they were kind of coming at us from all angles. I think one thing they did do well is that they kind of attacked everything all at the same time. They attacked us in the front and they attacked us on the rear, on the sides, and they had their flying units come in. So they did a good job of bringing everything in all at the same time. They just maybe didn't apply it to the best places. And like I said, the biggest thing about this battle for them was keeping their generals alive. If they'd done that, they probably could have won that, because they had a lot of loot units left and those Chaos Knights were coming around the back and destroying everything. So there was potential for them to win that, but not today. As for me and my ally, I think we had quite a distinct advantage in the fact we had a lot more numbers, and I think we played it quite well. We probably could have been a bit more spaced out to give us a bit more room to see what was going on. But I think one of the biggest things for the enemy was that they bought far too many flying units. Those exalted heroes and stuff aren't cheap. If they got rid of some of those and instead bought as many Chaos Marauders with great weapons that they could get, they're a cheap unit, they could have absolutely overrun us with Chaos Marauders and just destroyed us with that armor piercing. But they opted for some kind of weird flying attack that just did not come off. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this 2v2 battle, and I will see you in the future.